Welcome to episode 1 of the Mark+Josh podcast. Today we are going to be discussing tinnitus, my tinnitus experience with all of you. If you don't know, tinnitus is permanent ringing inside your brain. It never goes away, and it sucks, and it can make you suicidal, and you could decide that you want to off yourself because of it. So I think today I wanted to make something for people who maybe just got tinnitus. They just started hearing the ringing in their head and they kind of don't know what to do. They're scared. And I just kind of want to give it to you straight because there's a lot of stuff online that's like, the magic herb relieves tinnitus. Do you know the 7 magic herbs? And I don't want you guys flying to some far-off land to try to look for these herbs. I mean, if you want, they very well could exist. Actually, now you know what? If you want to do that, if you want to fly around the world looking for herbs to cure tinnitus, give me a ring if you find anything. But for those people that do not have the money to hop into some shady single-engine plane with some weird pilot who does not have enough hours to be qualified in my book, then I don't know where this started. What was I saying?
Tinnitus sucks and you hate it.
Tinnitus sucks and I hate it. So Mark and I are going to go through the rundown, and he'll ask me questions, and hopefully
Why don't we start from the beginning? Like, how'd you get it?
I got tinnitus, so I got brutally beaten by someone who I guess I thought was a friend at the time. And it was the kind of beating that just kind of sucks all the way around. Not that there's a beating that's like, I got beat the right way, but it was a sucker punch. It was an argument. It was something that it was just, I was in shock. I got into an argument with a friend, and he clearly, is mentally ill. And his father told me so. After
underselling that one.
I really undersell it.
Underselling that one.
He was talking to himself, and he was saying some things about me. And I can remember pretty vividly saying, "What are you saying about me?" And then he ran down the steps and punched me in the face. And it was like a really shitty Lifetime scene, like slow-mo, like I dropped my coffee, and it just shattered on the floor. And then I fell down, and he started beating me in the back of the head.
Well, didn't you say he jumped down the stairs? Like it was a jumping down the stairs.
It was a jumping down punch, which is impressive. And this is a guy that just about anybody could beat the hell out of. But when somebody hits you and you're not expecting it, it's a totally different ball game. So I was in complete shock as I was getting beaten. And I lost consciousness a few times. And I just wish somebody would have told the guy beating me that when somebody loses consciousness, that means you won. You stop. Like it's over at that point. You don't continue hitting after someone blacks out. So I woke up from that, and basically my face was pretty similar to Rocky Dennis's. I don't know if you guys remember Rocky Dennis. R.I.P. Rocky.
R.I.P.
I think a movie from the 80s had Cher.
The Mask.
It was called...
Mask?
I think it's called Mask. Do not mistake that with The Mask, Jim Carrey, because that is not...
Or Son of the Mask.
Or Son of the Mask. R.I.P. Jamie Kennedy's career. Actually, not really. Jamie's probably doing way better than we are. But Jamie, if you want to come on my podcast, you can do so. That's a huge digression, but you got to give it up for a guy with no talent who made it that far.
Malibu's Most Wanted. Give it up.
Basically, I got a fractured zygomatic arch. There's all kinds of nerves in your face. So I just sort of woke up one morning, and I just heard a that whole thing, and it just never stopped. So
for people who don't, it's hard to comprehend how annoying that can be all the time. Could you give what's it like?
So when I was growing up, the thing that annoyed me the most was the singer from the B-52s, and bring your jukebox money. And when I hear, no offense to that guy, I'm sure I bet you he would be a fucking rad dude to party with.
For sure.
But the jukebox money, it's like, dude, you gotta ease back a little bit with that. So basically, It's like hearing and bring your jukebox money all day. And it just never stops. You just the jukebox money, the jukebox money. And so when it happens, you panic and you become incredibly scared. And you might do what I did, which was hit message boards. And the thing about these message boards is they're mostly ineffectual because people say shit that they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like some people are like, well, if the ringing doesn't go away after 75 hours, that means it's permanent. And really, there's no rhyme or reason to any of this stuff. Like, I'm going to be straight with you. If it's been going on for more than a couple days, chances are it's not going to stop. Because we've all had, prior to me getting the tinnitus, we've all had ringing in our ear.
Oh, yeah, for
that
sure.
temporary ringing that you leave the club, or you've been bumping some Master P in your Jeep. And the 212s have been knocking to make them say, that can happen. But if this is something that's been going on for a couple days, I mean, put it this way. If you have to go to a message board because of the ringing in your head, I have to break it to you that it's not going to stop. But here's and this is why I wanted to make this podcast, because people think that they immediately go, oh my God, it's never going to stop. And so they immediately assume that it's never going to get better. Mm-hmm. And that's simply not true. So for me, I went through weeks of not being able to sleep, extreme depression. I mean, you're gonna do everything that you can to wear yourself out mentally. And I'm just gonna break it to you. If it's been happening to you for a while, like I said, it's not gonna stop. But that doesn't mean that it's gonna mess up your life. It doesn't mean that you have to kill yourself. Because eventually, it starts with, and bring your jukebox money, but eventually you don't hear that annoying guy anymore. It becomes, your brain has an interesting way of adapting to things. And like, for instance, you see your nose, right? Your nose is almost always in your plane of eyesight, but we tend to ignore it. I mean, sometimes you'll catch a look at your schnoz, and you'll go, oh, there's my nose, it's in the way. But 99% of the time, you don't notice that your nose is in your eyesight, your eye line. So it's pretty much the same thing with tinnitus. But it's going to take a little bit of time. And I know that when you first hear me say this, if you just got it, you're going to be like, dude, that's not what I want to hear. Shut the fuck up. Like, you're going to think that I'm like, not being sensitive to your situation. And believe me, I know what it's like, and it does improve. And by the way, I did contemplate suicide. There were, when you get this, I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to tell you about magic herbs, or if you sleep upside down for a week, or all this fucking mumbo jumbo about tinnitus that they might try to sell you on YouTube. The fact of the matter is, the only thing you can do, in my opinion, is acceptance. Mm-hmm. Number one is you have to accept things, because you're gonna play over and over in your head about, oh, I remember what it was like when this didn't happen, and what did I do wrong, and why is this happening to me? And you have to accept it. It happened. You can do a million thought experiments. You can think about it all day long, but the fact of the matter is that it's here to stay. You need to accept it. And the sooner that you accept it, the faster you can go back to sleep and enjoy your life, and then you don't even think about it.
Well, how long did it take you?
It took me, realistically, about a month or two to actually accept it and move on and get back to doing stuff in life. And the other thing that you can do, aside from the acceptance part, there is one thing that I've tried that is helpful, but again, it doesn't make the tinnitus go away. The ringing is there. That is going to be your new silence, is the buzzing, is the bring your jukebox money. So there is a noise. I don't know what they call it, but basically if you go to YouTube, you can type in tinnitus relief, and it's going to be hours upon hours of these audio tracks that are basically beeping and buzzing and hissing. And if you listen to those for about an hour a day like I did, When you remove the headphones, the actual sounds in your head, I don't know what kind of psychological mumbo jumbo happens in your brain, but the sound decreases and it becomes more bearable over time. Like, for instance, William Shatner, apparently on the set of Star Trek, there was an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
And he got really, really bad tinnitus, and he was contemplating suicide. It was a difficult time for him. And what they did was they basically have these hearing aids, and the hearing aids mimic the sounds that are coming from your brain, because that's where it's coming from. It's not coming from your ears. It's coming from the brain. And when you listen to that long enough, apparently it sort of just neutralizes the sounds in your head, and you're able to go about your life. And that's what worked for William Shatner. So there are things that you can do if you are not satisfied with my whole acceptance thing. So there are things you can do. But as far as something to make it go away completely, we're just not at that point in science, because there's just not a lot of research done on tinnitus to begin with. There's very little money spent on it. So it's because it's not life-threatening, it's something that I just don't think that the medical community has paid much mind to. So it becomes a new challenge in your life because we've grown up being able to run or get rid of everything, right? Something bad happens to you, there's a drug for it, and it'll stop it. This is going to be one of those unique cases, especially if you're young, where you are actually going to have to use mental fortitude and be strong mentally to actually get over this. And for some people, that can be incredibly scary. But the bottom line is, if you want to get over this, it's literally you getting over this. It's not you going to a doctor, getting med. There's none of that. You have to deal with this internally to beat it.
But there's a lot of, like, you mentioned Shatner. There's like a lot of famous people who also have it. Rock stars.
There's a lot. People. So a lot of rock stars.
Common.
And I feel bad for anybody. So obviously, right, if you're listening to loud music all the time, you can get it. So I feel bad for anybody that's like, they've been listening to the Footloose soundtrack too loudly on the subway, because there's Lars Ulrich, who's rocking out to stadiums, and then there's most of us who are listening to the Footloose soundtrack on the subway. So it's not the same. I think I could get tinnitus rocking in front of a 250,000 person crowd in Moscow or something. But I want to give a shout out to Blue Lobster, which is our sponsor. Blue Lobster. Hey, at least we're not Red Lobster. Back on with the show. Continue.
That was very nice. So I got a question. So does it still bug you? This was
here's the thing, guys, is sometimes it'll flare up and it sucks. And it's constantly, sometimes you'll get what's known as a spike and it'll get louder. And then sometimes you won't notice it at all. But I think the point of the matter is that you're going to have to move, you're going to have to continue with your life, and you can't be completely destroyed by it. Like, so for instance, I mean, let's look at some famous people and some great examples that they've set, right? Like, so Steve Martin got tinnitus on the set of The Three Amigos. Apparently, somebody fired a gun, because there's guns in that movie, and it went off near his ear, and the ringing started and didn't stop. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but he's quoted on, I don't know where the quote is, but I think I saw it on Wikipedia, so be cautious about that. But if the quote is real, I mean, Steve Martin has it down best when it comes to tinnitus. Either you get over it or you go crazy. So it's up to you. If you want to let it consume you and eat up the rest of your precious life, you have a right to do so. But keep in mind that Steve Martin, that happened to Steve Martin.
This is so long ago.
And so long ago. Steve Martin wrote Bowfinger. He's wrote a best-selling book. I mean, like...
You mean Steve Martin?
It's Steve
amazing.
Martin,
Yeah.
and he didn't stop working. And I mean, David Letterman. I mean, there is a lot of people that have this. Will.i.am, I think, from the Black Eyed Peas. So I mean, and a lot of it, I think a lot of people don't even mention it because when you get over this, it's not something that you're going to want to express to other people because one, they're not going to understand you because it's internal. There's no way that they can know about it other than you telling them. So I think millions of people have tinnitus, and a lot of very successful, famous people have tinnitus. So don't think that you're damaged goods or that the world is over or have those dark kinds of thoughts. But just expect that for the first few weeks, I'm not going to BS you. You may have a very hard time with this. And there's nothing that I can tell you or anything you can read on a message board that's going to change that. The fact of the matter is it's going to take you a while to become accustomed to the changes in your brain. You at once heard silence, and now you don't. That's a huge difference, and it's something that is going to take time to get over. But with that being said, don't let it take months and months and months. Take a few weeks. I was depressed. I didn't want to get out of bed. But that lasted, like a month, 3-4 weeks. And then at that point, I said, I got to move on. I got shit to do. So.
Do you hear tinnitus in your dreams?
I don't. But I do hear, and bring your jukebox money.
This episode brought to you by the B-52s.
The B-52s, the only band that can bring your jukebox money. Yeah. I think that there's a B-52s conspiracy to just be the most annoying sounding Queen ever. How many times do you think that singer got punched out like in the Midwest doing like a show like in Montana?
Just some ignorant dudes like
I can't stand you.
I bet you that tall blonde lady probably
fuck
fight.
People up.
Yeah, she could probably kick some ass.
Yeah.
Or the shorter redhead, she's probably real scrappy.
Yeah.
Definitely has his back. Or RuPaul, she was in that video too.
Was she?
Yeah.
Man, that guy, he's a real queen.
Dude, he's awesome.
I have no problem with the singer from the B-52s. I want to put it out there that if he's alive, is he even alive?
I think so.
If he's alive, look,
hope so.
I'd like to have you on the podcast, B-52 singer. And I really don't have an issue with your other tracks. Rock Lobster is a pretty good song.
It's a jam.
But and really, I don't even have a problem with Love Shack too much. It's kind of a fun novelty song that I hear at weddings and middle school dances because I still go to those.
Ooh yeah,
that's weird.
Chicka chicka.
I don't go to middle school dances, but if I did, I would be a chaperone because I like to look after people in a non-sexual, non-perverted way. So, is there anything else that we can discuss about tinnitus? I think I pretty much summed it up for you. If you got ringing in your head and it's been lasting several days, it's not going to go away. The other thing too is, I could be flubbing this because I'm not a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but there's a line, and there's a ringing in your ear head, and it won't go,
and
it won't go, in case you don't know. And I think that's what I want you to recognize, because some people are on message boards, and they're like, I've had ringing in my head for 87 days. Do you think it'll go away? It's like, no, dude, it's not going to go away. And when you're doing stuff like that, you're making it harder for yourself to get better, because just get off the message boards. I don't look at them anymore. When you first get this, you're going to be on message boards. You're going to be Googling like crazy. It does not help you. You got to deal with this. You're not going to get the answers that you want. I mean, quite frankly, maybe I'm not even going to give you the answers that you want, but I'm going to be honest with you, because some people, they're getting a ton of views and they're getting a ton of attention on YouTube and various platforms, lying to you about how such and such can make this go away, when in fact it's not. Could your tinnitus go away? Maybe. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Everybody's so different. And when it comes to matters of health, I'm learning now, running through the American medical system, it's a flawed system. And a lot of these doctors, they don't fucking know. They don't know what's going on inside of you. So I just think lay off the message boards, accept what's happened. If you need some type of therapy, like I mentioned, like the hearing aids that emit the noise that is inside your head, like what William Shatner used, look into that stuff. But stop beating yourself up and, be good to yourself. Accept that this happens and you can move on and you can be perfectly productive. And this episode is brought to you by the central banks. If we can't control the money system, you can't either.
Nobody can. Well, didn't you say there was a dude who had like his hearing, the hearing in his ear, like completely taken out because of the tinnitus? But because it's a brain issue, it actually didn't go away.
Yeah, there's been some wild shit when it comes to tinnitus. Like some people have had the nerve that basically your oral nerve, the nerve that makes it possible for you to hear.
You go deaf.
And the people have chopped it off because they wanted to get rid of the buzzing and the ringing, and it didn't go away. Because once again, this has nothing to do with your ears at this point. This is inside your brain. So this episode is brought to you by MC Hammer.
Too legit to quit.
So I think that about does it. This is a first experimental episode.
I think we can talk about all sorts of stuff. I think we should address the elephant in the room, and that's that picture behind us.
Let's
give a shout out.
Well, we can do more. Let's finish this one so it's easier to contain.
Sure.
We can keep potting, but so that's really about it, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that if you have any questions, my email is joshbarclay@gmail.com, or you can just leave me a comment in the comment section.
What if I wanted to hit you up on Instagram?
If you want to hit me up on Instagram, my handle is Big Awesome Uncle Hands, and you can hit me up on the in the DMs because it goes down in the. I can't even do it. It's so lame.
The DM. I don't know. Your Gotti's pretty good.
So that'll do it for the first episode of the Mark and Josh podcast. If you have tinnitus and you want to fight me, then let's do it. Because I bet you my ringing in my head is louder than yours. And if you don't believe me, we can settle this with a game of knockout on the basketball court. Or we can play a game of horseshoes at my Uncle Butch's house. Actually, Uncle Butch died a few years ago.
Well, he still has a house, though.
He still has a house that we can go to. Not sure who owns it now, but don't worry. We can beat those guys up, too.
I think we show up with, like, a keg, or at least, like, a 24-pack, and we're like, hey, fucking Butch, yeah, we can play.
What we should do is we should just show up to Butch's old house and just scream up at the heavens, like, Butch, I miss you, man, and just guilt the owners of the property so much to where they're going to be like, man.
They're not going to kick you off.
This guy's talking to his dead uncle on his dead uncle's property. What are we going to do?
Probably take the kids out to Blue Lobster.
Take the kids out to Blue Lobster and get yourself a Blue Lobster tail. For a limited time, $69.99 will feed your family and a mistress.
Is there a mistress section?
There's a mistress section.
Like a section?
There's a seating section in the back for your mistress. Mistress bathrooms.
Can we develop a restaurant where you go to watch people eat? Like you sit in the periphery and you watch families eat.
I already do that.